Well, I'm with Professor David Nutt here in the MTTV studio on the Isle of Man tonight for a talk on drugs. You've been over the media quite a lot over the weekend. Yeah. I think obviously people remember you from your disagreement with the UK government, and the advice you were giving wasn't what they wanted to hear. I mean, just remind us what that was, please.
Well, I was essentially saying the drug laws weren't based on evidence, and therefore we were criminalising a lot of young people, particularly for the use of cannabis, inappropriately. And the government did not like that. And they thought that coming up to that election, the last election, being hard on drugs would get them votes. So they decided to get rid of me.
Now, you've made some very interesting comments about, I think it's horse riding is more dangerous, presumably. That's what you're saying.
That's what I was saying.
You know, some people are not going to believe this at all. I mean, they're not going to
look at the evidence. Actually, the horse riding story is a personal story because I'm a psychiatrist. I see patients. And I saw a woman who was about 37 years old, and she destroyed the front part of her brain falling off a horse, and it had ruined her life. Her husband had left her, had taken the children. Her behaviour had changed terribly. And it got me interested in how harmful horse riding was. And I discovered, in fact, it's much more harmful than people imagine.
What do you want to see happen? I mean, and, you know, will it happen even? But what would you like?
What I want is people to tell the truth about drugs. I want people to accept that alcohol and tobacco are dangerous drugs. And in many cases, they're more dangerous than a lot of drugs which are illegal. And I want a rational debate about how to make drugs available in the safest way possible. I think we should have some kind of regulated market, like they have in the Netherlands. Netherlands have had cannabis coffee shops for almost 30 years. It's actually done nothing but good. It's reduced the harms of cannabis, it's reduced the harms of hard drugs. That's the sort of thing we should be bringing in this country.
Yeah, many years ago, in my youth, I went to Amsterdam and you know, you tried all these cake things or whatever, and it was all a bit, I don't know, can the Brits do it? It's because we can't hold our drink apparently, because you know, just with alcohol we're out of control. Do you think those sort of things is a good idea?
Part of the problem with alcohol in this country is that that's the only drug people have that's legal to intoxicate themselves. It's heavily marketed. There's a significant increase in consumption. Look at the Netherlands, where people have a choice. A lot of people sensibly use cannabis because they don't get so intoxicated. So I think we could. You know, I think there's a myth put about it that we don't have self-control, but I think if we had a sensible policy, we would actually teach people self-control.
But you're always going to get that percentage that can't control it, and I saw that again in Amsterdam, people stealing handbags off people just to obviously feed a craving, and the lower end of the market who'd been brought into Amsterdam and were totally out of control.
Yeah, look, all drugs can be harmful. Drugs can be addictive. About 10% of people who drink become addicted to alcohol. About 8% of people who use cannabis get addicted to alcohol, to cannabis. So yes, there's always a problem at one end. But what we have to do is look at the big picture. And we've got to work out the best way in our society to reduce the harms of drugs and allow people to have a good time. And simply focusing on alcohol, allowing alcohol, is the wrong way forward, because alcohol is more toxic than cannabis. It's more toxic than pretty much anything else anyone wants to take.
Well, a well-known pop star was suggesting the Isle of Man should be a test bed for these sort of things. Do you think that is something that could be looked at, the Isle of Man legalising cannabis and people coming over here and smoking it?
That would be a really interesting way forward. I mean, people need to do the experiments. I'm actually more hopeful that Scotland, when it becomes independent, will actually make an approach like the Dutch approach with cannabis cafes. But why shouldn't the Isle of Man? It would be a very sensible thing to do, frankly, and that would presumably bring in a fair bit of trade.
And of course America is going down there. Colorado.
Well, exactly. We have 2 American states that have made it legal, Colorado and Washington State. About 20 American states now have medicinal cannabis. And that's another thing that, maybe the Isle of Man could develop. I think it's outrageous that cannabis, which was a medicine for 3,000 years, which was widely used in Victorian times, which was written about by Queen Victoria in gushing praise of the way it dealt with her period pains and her pains of childbirth, should be denied people with terminal illnesses at present. And we see their partners who go and get it for them being criminalised. That's really outrageous. So at the very least, we should have medicinal cannabis available.
We could talk forever, but I know you've got this big talk tonight. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yes, I'm talking at the museum. The talk is called The Truth About Drugs. And I'm going to look at the big perspective. I'm going to say, what is a drug? Why are people so worried about drugs that are illegal, and so why are they so blind to the harms of alcohol? And try to come up with a rational approach to drugs that allows young people to have fun, but also make sure that the therapeutic benefits of drugs, such as cannabis, such as MDMA, such as even as LSD, can be out there for the medical profession to use.